Indy 500, Polaris Indy 500 snowmobile. And what's going on is we have a no start due to the starter, the electric start not working. If you pull it over, she runs just fine. And so what the customer had found is right here, this little heat shield is literally touching the exhaust almost. And it had melted the previous battery. Okay, so we got to move this and kind of get it to bend back out of the way. So there's an air gap there. And then number two, they think either the starter went out or the solenoid went bad. So he replaced the solenoid here. This isn't the factory one. This is an aftermarket one. And we're going to go ahead and make sure this is working because it doesn't click when you push the button. Now, we do have a push button start on this versus the key start because the switch went bad and it was cheaper to put this switch in. And that's what the customer decided to do. So let's go ahead, let's pull this solenoid off and see what we can find out. I see that it is wired incorrectly. You know, customer attempted to do this himself based off pulling the old one off. And sometimes there's some confusion as to where to put the signal wires. And so he had this one here on the battery. Well, this wire goes up to the switch and then it goes back down to here. And it should be connected to the signal switch to turn the solenoid on and off. So basically all he was doing when he pushed the button is it was sending electricity back to the battery. So we're going to go ahead and, okay, so it looks like we should have positive and ground on either one of these. And then the main battery terminal coming in here and going out here. Now, how they had it was the main power was coming in here as well as the switch and everything. So we're going to go ahead and correct. All right, so I grabbed a few nuts here and a couple lock washers, okay? So we can put the posts on the correct side here. So now what we need to do is we need to grab this wire here, okay? And it has to go on here. The problem is these studs are too big to fit, you know, this wire. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take this over to the vise, drill it out, and I'm gonna clean these up. And then, dropping stuff. All right, and then we'll clean these up, make the holes bigger, and then I'll get back to you. All right, that's good enough. And this one's really bad. So this one's a little bit bent. We're going to bend it straight so it's easier for us to clean it. Basically just do the same thing on all of them. Alright, so what we're going to do is very carefully drill these holes a little bit bigger. I like using step drills. They make the process go a lot smoother. And so I use an impact driver, 1/4 inch, and what that does is when I'm drilling out little terminals like this, it works out really well because when it catches, it helps to not just take it and try to break the wire off. So we got that side good, and then we'll sand this down. Or what we can do is we can turn it around and use a step drill to just kind of deburr it. See that? Took that right off. All right, so let's go ahead and make this side larger. Looks like we went 2 steps on the last one. See that? Make sure she fits. Good. Okay, that's good. Now we got this one down here. All right, and then let's go ahead and do it from the back side here to deburr it. There we go. Make sure that that fits there. Good. Good, good, good. All right, now one of these wires should have a bigger end on it. Yep. Because it's made, I take my power directly from the battery cable. So like this one here, goes on here, goes up to the battery. It's the same as attaching this wire straight to the battery. So let's go ahead and assemble this. Right now we're not tightening everything down, we're just getting it kind of assembled so we can mock it up in place. So this is, remember this sits right here. So we want to kind of make sure that we got it angled good. All right, now the other end is going to go onto one of these, okay? So we're going to go ahead and let's point that straight up. Now you see these connectors, they got a little step here. So we don't want it this way because that's going to make it interfere with the plastic. So we'll turn it around so it goes that way so it'll clear. And go ahead and put our washer on. Put the nut on. All right, and then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a wire that goes from here down to here for the ground, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to take off a little chunk of wire. Now this wire is way bigger than what we need, but it's what we got sitting around, so. On there good, and she fits on here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go down on this one. Okay, so let's get these wires out of the way. And the reason we're going to go down is so that we can go like this, make it look nice and neat. We don't want it to look real sloppy, you know. This is a professional job, people are paying for it, so we want to make sure that they get it done right. Now these don't have to be super tight, okay? Don't sit there and just crank on it, because what'll happen is they'll strip out. They're just little tiny threads, you know? Okay, and then we should have room. Yeah, so we'll put this one on once we have it in place. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and line these two studs up with these two holes again. Okay. Okay, so now we got that. We'll put one nut on here. Kind of help hold it in place while we fiddle around trying to get that wire bent around and onto the post. Let's see. Go tight. And we're not going to crank down on it. We're just getting her in place. Now the swivel ratchet that I'm using here, they're pretty sweet. This one here happens to be by Mac, so you know it's a little pricey. It's probably about $50 for a ratchet. But Harbor Freight does have a very similar one, and they're fine tooth. I have one of those ones as well. The Harbor Freight one I had broken. Stripped the head out because I was using it. Break some bolts out that shouldn't have been broken loose with a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, especially a fine tooth one. All right, so let's take this yellow one here. Oops, sorry, our ground that we made. I'm gonna go underneath the wire, fold it down and around, and get it onto this stud. Okay, so you see we got that on there. And if we can get it to go straight down, it just looks way cleaner than hanging out the side there. So we're going to put a washer on, okay, and let's clean up this washer. Yeah, let's just grab a new one. How does that sound? Oh, that's too big. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and clean up this nut here so we can put this on. And it's kind of difficult to get you guys in here, but right down in there, hopefully you can see.